we're back. Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Joining me live from Atlanta. His billfold just a little bit more filled up, right? Just got a few more 20s in there, maybe some 50s, maybe some hundos, depending upon how much you put on that 18-1. Victor Hovland. You heard it here last week. We were all over him. Keith Stewart at Read the Line, coming to us live from Eastlake. How you doing, bud?
Oh man, it's all good. You know, like many of us here in the media center, we are happy it is the Tour Championship, and that provides a much required break from the day to day of the airport. But nah, man, I mean, what a Sunday last week. I'll let you get into it, but man, that was cool. That was one of the better things I've seen in golf.
Yeah, me too. I would think that's probably certainly the best back nine down the stretch late on a Sunday in the zone that I've seen. I mean, just let's say it. It was a stripe show, absolute stripe show. When you think of stripe show and you think of what that means and who comes to mind, Victor Hovland is on the short list, and he certainly did that. Just this little baby fade every single time. That front right pin on the 18th, I mean, he was licking his chops from the middle of the fairway. He probably thinking about making it the way that he was going. And he just hit it so close, all day. And just these, not kick-ins always, but just an incredible display of ball striking, positive six with the putter. And he gets himself his biggest tournament to go along with the Memorial earlier this year.
He gained 6 strokes on the field total on his back nine alone, with 8 threes and a 4. He had no 5s on his scorecard. And like there's always that guy in the group that like it's a good drive and he goes to pick up the tee. I mean, Victor was picking up the tee before he hit it off the with the driver. It was so impressive. The approaches, it was just I can't Scotty was like that at the Players, and Victor was he was impressive, man. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah, there's probably only 2 guys that can hit it like that right now in today's game. Scotty, Victor, and Rory probably as well when he's rolling. But Iron Game, man, it looked like he was just taking dead aim, playing aggressive golf because he had to, right? He had to go catch Scotty. And it makes you think that as I was watching that, it makes you think that, okay, next week, let's propel ourselves to Atlanta. There's a lot of guys that are starting way down the leaderboard that are going to have to play aggressive golf if they want to go and win, because Scotty Scheffler, I mean, let's face it, is probably not going to be putting up 73, 74 to bring everybody back into this, even with an ailing putter. We saw a different putter in his hand, which I was excited about. I've been calling for a change, and he still lost just under 2 strokes. But you start looking at this leaderboard and guys at even -1, -2, -3, -4. I mean, you're starting way back, and you're starting way back from the best players in the world. So if you want any chance at winning this, I mean, they're going to have to start taking on more risk, aren't they?
I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's outside of 5 strokes from Scotty that even has a chance.
Okay.
I mean, the average winning score over the last decade here, gross, is 12 under par, Travis.
Right.
So if you're sitting at 4 or 5, unless you have some sort of magical week, you just can't catch it. I mean, you're assuming that Scotty's going to shoot over par. Oh, wait, and then you're assuming Victor's going to shoot over. I mean, they're going to shoot 4 or 5, 6, 7 under from the position they're in. So if you're at 5 and Scotty shoots 5, you got to shoot 10 under just to tie him.
Yeah.
So, that's why it's important for everyone that's listening today that you go through, or that we go through together, the difference between playing with the strokes and betting with the strokes, or betting without the strokes. Because with the strokes, it's a very limited field and a very limited market. And everyone that kind of bounced up to the betting board would have been like, oh, Scotty is what? Plus 160? Like, what's going on? So we need to tell them what's going on.
Yeah, they're starting at a staggered start real quick. So we're saying, before we even get to the board, you got Sepp Straka, Jordan Spieth, and Terrell Hatton starting at even par. along with Emilia Agrino and Sam Burns. There's 5 guys right there starting at even. And then you got 5 more guys: Jason Day, Colin Morikawa, Adam Schenk, who's had a good year. Good to see him in there. Nick Taylor, Taylor Moore, who imploded last week at -1. So there's 5 guys. And then you go 5 more guys: Siwoo Kim, Corey Connors, Tony Finau, Sung J M, Tom Kim at 2 under. And then we get to 3 under. There's 5 more guys: Xander Schauffele, Ricky Fowler, Keegan Bradley, Russell Henley, Tommy Fleetwood. He's saying that none of these guys have a chance to win starting here. Then you go to 4. Matthew Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, your boy. You're saying even at 4 under, he has no chance at a golf course like this, given his driver. His putter just hasn't looked like it's the part, and he hasn't really putted that well here either on these greens. So he's at 4 under. Max Homa is at 4 under. We're saying doesn't have a chance. But then we go to 5. Lucas Glover, John Rahm's at 6, Rory McIlroy's at 7, Victor Hovland's at 8, and Scotty Scheffler starts the tournament at 10 under par. So that's how this works, the staggered start, which makes it really difficult for guys, to your point, 4 under or worse. If I had to look at that list and pick from 4 under or worse, I would probably just naturally sprinkle a little on Xander Schauffele, which is kind of unlike me. I think Xander plays his course better than anybody. And so if there's one guy that can get hot here, that has played great here, I would say it's Xander. Can he win? Probably not, but I would say he's the most qualified, and particularly here, to make a run up that leaderboard. And then I would say Cantlay at 4, but historically hasn't putted very well here. But the driver continues to be hot. Before we get to the rest of the board, because we got some stuff for you that we want to talk about here today. I want to first go back to Chicago, which was a great atmosphere, by the way. You know, I think of these playoffs, and that's the atmosphere that I was hoping for. I didn't think Memphis really delivered. It felt, I don't know, it just didn't feel like different. Didn't feel like wild card weekend in the NFL. Didn't feel like the first round of Major League Baseball playoffs. Let's get through the series of 3. Just, all right, it's kind of Memphis. But anyway, we get to Chicago. Now we got some energy. That felt cool. That felt exciting, and the boys delivered, right? And Scotty playing well, stumbling a little bit down the stretch, but Victor coming in 28 in the back nine, electric. And so now we're here to Atlanta. Great golf course is East Lake. Difficult. We'll get to it in a second, but take you back to Chicago. Did you see the gambling situation that happened with Max Homa and these 2 guys around the green? One guy was betting $3 against the other guy, and he yelled out in Max Homa's putt and said, "Pull it." And Max made it, but afterwards had a lot to say about it in the press conference. He was visibly very frustrated by the whole situation. They had some choice words to say to these guys, him and his caddy. Deservedly so. Like, I get it. Like, you don't want anybody yelling in your backstroke, but he kind of took I thought a pretty broad brush to gambling and the concern of gambling. But yet for me, Keith, when I look at that incident, to me, it was an idiot, probably overserved, yelled out and said something, which unfortunately happens from time to time. I don't think this is a direct gambling concern, and like he had, a bunch of money on it. But unfortunately, people say stupid things at the wrong time once in a while on the PGA Tour. But for the most part, they police it quite nicely. How did it land for you with Homa's reaction and kind of taking the broad stroke towards the concern of gambling in golf?
I thought it was a little touchy, to be honest with you. I was not standing there. I didn't hear the yelling. So full disclosure, I wasn't at that part of the golf course at that time. Afterwards, I read the transcript from the interview from the Flash area, and I thought he went a little deep on that, especially for somebody who takes the time to, like, earlier in the week on the Pro-Am day, he was walking around with Big Cat from Barstool. I mean, Max creates an atmosphere around himself, right? That's that draws in the casual fan, and 99% of the time, I mean, that's a great thing for him and his brand, and it's a good thing for the PGA Tour. There's always going to be idiots out there, and I think things happen. I think at the end of the day, to kind of throw this, like you mentioned, a broad stroke criticism over live betting in golf, when it's something that over the course of the next 2 to 4 to 5 years is going to elevate the game in a way that is going to reach a much larger fan base and allows people like myself to be here and to tell all different types of stories. I mean, the modern sports fan is getting into the fact that they love proactive content. And what I mean by that is that I'm here in the media center today coming up with narratives in and around Eastlake, who will win, and how this will all take place. And the same thing for the LPGA out in Vancouver, right? The rest of the media room, not myself included, when we all went in and heard Jay this morning, but they're all writing articles reacting to whatever Jay said. And then they'll react to whatever happens in the tournament. And I think that the younger crowds, the streaming crew, and certainly the mobile sports bettors, they're seeing a difference in the content that we are creating, and it's a lot more engaging. At this point, everyone sees on social media in like 30 seconds the synopsis of whatever it was happened, right? And then they can make their judgment from there. But what more people are trying to push for in our world is to get there to be more content that's out there pre these elements happening, pre the tournament. So that way they can come up with their own sort of, oh, geez, you know what? I think Travis will win the tour championship. I think, and here's my reasons why. And then when I watch, I'm way more emotionally connected to the event. So from that respect, I think that overall what's to say that those guys, what does it have to do with betting now? Really, what's to say that those guys wouldn't have done the same exact thing had there not been legalized sports gambling in Illinois, right? Or that hasn't happened before. So, we could go down like quite a long wormhole here, or continue down Dante's spiral into the inferno. But at the end of the day, I think golf is in a much better place when it comes to betting, simply for the fact that we don't have referees.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you want to talk about things being on the level, at least when I walk away from a golf tournament, I feel like the integrity of the game, which I've tried to uphold for my entire career, and everything else that goes along with it. Let me ask you a question. Not that you're a fan of either side. When you walked away from the Super Bowl, did you think that whole thing was legit?
When I walked away from the Super Bowl, which one?
This last one, with the pass interference call, the Eagles-Chiefs, right? Now, of course it was legit. I'm not saying that it wasn't, folks. But what I am saying is that, the idea that there's a third party that judges and plays a part in the outcome versus it's just two players going head to head, to me, makes a big difference in why I think over time, people are going to be far more into golf betting than they will be into other things.
Yeah, no, I think that's very well said. Golf is the perfect sport for betting, and it's only going to continue to grow. It's going to have, I've always felt, a positive impact on the game. I think you bring up valid points in the content that we're creating around gambling that people can consume before the tournament, which gets them excited, gets them emotionally invested. I don't think with gambling or without that it takes away that you're always going to have idiots on the golf course that get overconsumed and feel the need to yell something in a player's backswing. It's been around for years. This has happened a lot. The PGA Tour, at least from my standpoint, and I don't know, I'm not out there every day. I've had a couple caddies respond to the tweet that I made that I felt like, really, Max, like this is the avenue we're going to take down this one little situation, a situation that escalated, I think, for Max because he had a tough day. He made triple that day. He had the lead going in. He didn't play very well. And I get that, and I'm sensitive to that. And I like Max. I think he's great for the game. I was a little surprised that he kind of indulged so far, like you said, down this path to make it a point about gambling when really it's two guys making a $3 bet. Whether it's legal or not in Illinois or not, like you're going to have this kind of activity happening. And you know what? It probably is going to get worse in every sport. It has. Fan behavior is a concern in every sport right now. And maybe gambling has a little bit to do with that. I probably think it has a lot more to do with alcohol. I think it has a lot more to do with that people are living their life a little bit more on edge right now. All you got to do is pull up Twitter and you see the crap that comes through your feed. It puts fear in you, whether you like it or not, and you're more on edge. And so your behavior naturally kind of changes. And I think there's a lot of factors that go into this. I just didn't like the broad stroke to gambling. It kind of came across, I think he tried to make it come across like, we got to be concerned about this, folks. We got to, we have to manage this in gambling, when it was just such a small, weird example. It had nothing to do with mainstream gambling anyway. I think it landed different than he intended. I think it landed more like he was whining. And I don't think that he's going to get sympathy from the media and really probably his followers that he engages with, that he likes to be a part of. To your point with Barstool and those guys coming out, no laying up, foreplay. He likes being that boy and fitting into that mold. And I just think this was an example that could have been kind of brushed to the side and like, it's a tough day. Let's come back tomorrow and move on.
Hey, Max is right, but I can tell you this much. The tour is aware of fan behavior. And
sure. They need to be, because it's unacceptable. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, no one should be yelling in the backstroke of a putting stroke. I mean, it's unacceptable. I hate it. It's annoying. But look, if someone's going to do it, they're going to do it. Like, I mean, we're going to put muzzles on everybody's mouth. Like, we can't, it's going to happen. But to Max's point too, like the tour, like, it happens very rarely. So it's really not that big of a concern, is it? I mean, even he said, like, it doesn't happen that often. And when it does, it wasn't intentional. And so I don't know. It just kind of, I don't know. I don't like that. Don't hit me in the wrong way, right? You probably realized that after 2 or 3 texts came across your phone when that happened. Anyway, let's move on. We're in Georgia. You know what that means?
Hey, Travis.
What?
Travis.
What?
Victor won. 18-1. Oh.
You know what that means? How good is this song?
Little Georgia satellites there.
Hey. And don't yell in my backswing. All right, here we go. Tour champ, East Lake, tough course, par 7. Yeah, I've played it. Let me tell you something. That's some long ass rough there, boy. I mean, you talk about Bermuda rough. I've played Bermuda rough here in Florida for 22, 23 years. That's some thick rough. I can't tell you how many times, the couple times I played it in the summer, where, I mean, I would literally watch the ball go off the fairway. It's like, it's right there. It's right there. And walk over there, and I couldn't find it. like I was looking around. Oh, crap. It's right there. It is. I mean, you have to literally be right on top of it to see it. This is some thick rough. Ball's going to be flying. We know that. They're going to be bombing it.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to play this one from the fairway. Even from the fairway, though, Keith, it's hard to really take this place apart, right? I mean, it's hard to, even from the fairway, like, really dismantle it and go low. It's just kind of difficult through and through.
There's no doubt about that. And even with the fairway, with the zoysia grass, and the ball sits up on it like a tee, it gives you every advantage you can. It's just a hard golf course. Par 3s are really hard. A couple of them bring double bogey into play, which isn't always the case when it comes to par 3s. The par 5s are certainly scoreable. Both of them are very reachable for these guys. But it's this course is hillier than most people give it credit for. And on the holes where water does come into play, the water is significantly in play. And Bermuda gas greens, I mean, these things are running 12 plus. So maybe they're not as grainy as people give them credit for. But at the end of the day, the unpredictable nature of missing the fairway here makes it one of the top 5 toughest and most penal courses from the rough. And nobody likes Bermuda grass. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. But Bent and rye aren't going to grow down here because it is like hotter than
Yeah.
Hades here. So, it's you take what you can out of it. But it's the average person when they play from bent grass or ryegrass or northern rough, they can do one of two things. They think they can hit a shot and then they hit it and it reacts somewhat to what they think it was going to be, or they know they can't and they punch out. Down here, there's a thing called hope. And the kind of wispy, thin nature of the grass gives you this idea that sometimes you can make better contact than you think with the ball. And you could have a 20, 30-yard difference in ball flight from flyers to balls that just won't come out. And then, that's just on approach when you're taking full swings. Let alone the short game in and around the greens, the way the ball comes out. And PGA Tour players do not like to guess. And at the end of the day, they are that exacting. And being off by 15, 20 feet is a problem, and it keeps you from contending. So, fairway for sure as a first priority this week.
But to your point, if they are in the rough and they do feel like they can take a go at it, that's a very difficult proposition, right? To control and to control that ball flight within the yardage that they want to. And if they don't, they're more apt there to get that bigger miss, in which then they feel like they're less out of control or less in control. So around the green, there's some challenges for sure, but I wouldn't say that it's that much more difficult around the green than, say, kind of the stock PGA Tour event, right? I think guys missing greens here, unless the lie is really bad, feel like they can get the ball up and down.
Guys are gaining a slight edge over the last 10 winners. On average, they're gaining over 2 strokes against the field around the green, which is kind of high, especially for a par 70 golf course. So when you start to look at that, from 80 yards and in, that's an area that Xander Schauffele has been very good at here. And as a result, he's won twice here. I just, and we go back to the idea of strokes, with strokes or without strokes. When it comes to me this week, I'm only going to bet the without stroke side, or what they refer to as the shadow leaderboard. And Xander's a very strong pick there at whatever you're going to pull up on the board in a second. He currently is somewhere around probably 12-1, because he could distance himself from the field. We're talking about the 30 best ball strikers on tour for this season. The top 15 of them or whatever are 100% elite of the elite for the last 6 months. So how are you going to separate yourself? I do think around the green play with a lot of approach type shots coming from Bermuda grass from time to time is one way that somebody can differentiate themselves.
Yeah. Well, you go back to the last 5 rounds here, Xander and Rory head and shoulders above this field for sure, as far as getting around this golf course. Then it goes to Rahm with a pretty big drop off from Rory to Rahm. And then it goes for a pretty big drop off from Rahm to Homa, who Homa finished T5 here last year. Of course, Xander's won twice here. Rory's won. Defending champ also won back in 2019. I think Rahm's like, is this for Rahm? Is he licking his chops here? Like he wants to check this one off? Is this
he must,
really okay?
He must, but his form's not good. It was not good in Chicago. Same thing that we all saw in Memphis. The driver's not in play, and it's putting a lot of pressure on other areas of his game. And he got to play a couple of his first 2 days. Yeah, well, and he got to play the first 2 days with Scotty, who's, again, the way he strikes the ball this year is legendary. So I think that also put a little pressure on him. And let's be honest. Yes. Would Rahm like to win the FedEx Cup? Sure he would. But if you asked him right now, would you rather win the Ryder Cup or the FedEx Cup? He would say this year, he'd say the Ryder Cup, and he needs to get his game in order for 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's start. Let's go up the board here. Because we said from 4 under on down, we're not given much of a chance, and 4 unders include Max Homa, who finished T5 here last year. Cantlay, -4. Harmon, -4. Wyndham Clark, -4. Matthew Fitzpatrick, -4. Now, when I think of that group right there, and I think to myself, okay, someone's got to get hot. Like, someone's got to fill it up and make some putts. I would probably lean towards Harmon. You know, I mean, if I had to pick someone in that group, and I wanted to sprinkle a little bit on the 4-under group that could just go out there and blitz it with the putter, I think it's Brian Harmon, Georgia Bulldog. We know what he can do with the putter. His iron game has improved. I think keep it in front of him. I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm just saying if I had to make a case, that's probably where I would go in the 4-unders. Now in the 3-unders, I would probably, I think, naturally gravitate to Xander, just obviously with his record here. But let's go back up to 5-under. Do we give Lucas Glover any chance at all to gain 5 strokes on Scheffler and win? First off, what is Scotty Scheffler's pants going to look like come the end of the day Thursday?
Oh, Lucas, you mean? Lucas, right?
Yeah, I said Lucas Glover, yeah. What's his pants going to look like end of the day Thursday?
I don't know, but he needs a new sponsor. I'm telling you. Gold
Does Lucas Glover have a chance?
For sure.
We give him any chance. 5-under. He's 5-under right now. Does he have any chance to go up there and catch him? Right now, he's 45-1.
I mean, the hottest golfer on the planet is Victor Hovland, and I'm not sure with a 2-shot lead over Scotty, he has a chance. You know, if Scotty keeps going the way he's going. Seriously.
No.
Scotty's playing better than he did last year at this time. That's why
Scotty loses 2 strokes every putter. He loses 2 strokes. We know he's going to lose 2 strokes with the putter, so now he's 8.
At the end of the day, that's why I'm not betting this side. Because I'm not going to give guys strokes. You're going to give Scotty Scheffler strokes.
Right.
The guy's number 1 in every category. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's and I get it. The putter is not, but I mean, if anything, he's number 1 strokes gained chip on his shoulder from last year in the way that he finished up against Rory. If anybody's motivated, you go to Rahm. Does Rahm want to check this box off? Sure, he does. But Scotty should have won it last year. And Rory made triple on the first hole, and he still caught him. Rory shot 17 under gross last year, right on the shadow leaderboard to win it. So, like, you know, Scotty's looking at that and going, this was mine. And there's $75 million in this purse and $18 million for first place. I think Scotty's extremely motivated to answer some questions this week. He hasn't won since the Players.
Right. Well, all right. So we're not giving Lucas much of a chance. I would, at Lucas, I would probably, honestly, I'd go to 65 and sprinkle Harmon before I would do Lucas. That's just me, though. Anyway, all right. So we go to Rahm. Now here's Rahm at 600. And look, last week we talked about Rahm a lot. I said that I'm concerned about his driver, and his driver continues to be a little bit of an issue. I think he's fighting it. Might be leaking into a little bit of his iron game as well. But look, he was second at the Open, 37th at the first FedEx St. Jude there, first round of the playoffs, and 31st at the BMW, and just, not great form. And is he going to show up here and blitz it? Unlikely. It does feel like Rahm perhaps could be just kind of building this thing up to the Ryder Cup. I think it's safe to say the Ryder Cup probably means more to most of these players than winning the playoffs. I just, that's, the guys that have money already and want to be a part of the Ryder Cup team. It probably does mean a little bit more. We've heard Justin Thomas talk about that, and there's been some other players that have kind of alluded to that. Don't get me wrong, the first place prize is quite nice. These guys got a lot of cash, and the Ryder Cup has a lot of weight. And I would think for Rahm, considering the state of his game, he's got some work to do. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to win this week, which I'm not going to bet him. But he's got some work to do to get himself in shape before they go to Rome.
His last 4, miscut at the Travelers, good at the Open. We mentioned that. And then the last two playoffs, he's, in the 30s, which for him is not John Rahm. And John Rahm has 4 wins this year, including a green jacket. He's the leader in the clubhouse for Player of the Year. So I just don't know how it all turns around in a week.
Has PGA Tour Live discussion weighed on Rahm, you think? We know it's late. We know we've seen it with Rory, and he took some time away, and Has it weighed on Rahm? Because it does seem like Rahm has been in the middle, has a lot to say about what's happening. Has it had, do you think, maybe an impact on him, not even knowing? He's like, oh, I'm fine. But, Rahm hasn't been quite himself. Let's face it.
He's definitely pressing. It's a good point. I'm not sure why he's pressing, but you could definitely tell he's pressing. And, you bring up a good point, but you could tell by his body language that he's pressing.
Yeah.
There was a couple instances where I was walking with him last week where I thought I did not feel comfortable standing within 15 feet of him. Like
wow.
he was
He's that mad.
upset. He was upset. Club over the shoulders, in that position where it's very susceptible to bending, let alone breaking. I mean, he was doing his very best to control himself. He flew the green on 13, then he chili dipped the wedge to get it on because the lie was terrible, and then he hit it from there to like 7 feet and made the putt. But man, he had a look that could bend steel going, and I was like, we get out of here.
Yes.
So, and from what I've seen, I just don't see it turning around this week. Sure, it'll turn around before the Ryder Cup, I would assume, but he's pressing for something.
Yeah.
Getting it back
he's
to
pressing.
where he was. I don't know. Pressing.
You kind of feel like with Rahm, like, that driver, like when the driver goes and he's trusting it, then everything kind of falls into place, right? And when that driver doesn't, right now it's kind of chipped away. It feels like at some of the other parts of his game. He's got to get that more under control. Rahm has always had a short, fast swing. It just looked even more so that way last week. It just looked even more so like just boom, boom, like it was just even quicker than normal.
I'll just say this much about Olympia Fields. That's a hard golf course. And I know that they shot the scores that they did. But if you look further down the leaderboard, guys struggled there. Okay? I know it was a limited field, but if you had 156 players there, like a full PGA Tour event or a major, right, the cut would have been over par.
Right.
It's a difficult golf course. And if you weren't in complete trust mode or confidence mode, self-belief, stylings, you're just, that place can grab you. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
All right. So we're probably not going to bet Rahm. We're going to bet Rory. Rory hasn't finished outside of the top 10 since May. 7th, 9th, 2nd, 7th, 1st, 6th, 3, 4. I'm convinced Rory could get up, mosey to the course, B, C game, whatever, and finish 7th. He's just that talented. I mean, it just like golf is that easy to him. Gosh, I kind of couple bogeys. I'm outside the top 20. Got my attention. Birdie. And it just, that's what makes it so frustrating. And then he doesn't win, right? And that's because the expectation's so high. And of course, the drought in the majors and all that, it adds up. The frustration as fans, you add up because you want them to put one of these away. But the reality is, he's got it all and in spades. And then he comes here and he has put it away here. And he's putted really well here. Like he sees these greens well. I think if you ask Rory to pick your top 3 venues that you like to putt on and you see well, and we talk about horses for courses. Well, there's greens for horses. That makes sense. And I think this is in the top 3 for Rory. I think he likes these greens and he usually excels on them.
Rory, geez, for as long as I can think back, watching golf is the most impressive driver of the golf ball I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's on tour, right? I mean, it is such a weapon for him, and that's why at a place like this, he becomes, an instant favorite. And that's why, on the regular board, I think he's the favorite at about 550 to 1 or plus 550 or 5 to 1. And I mean, some of the drives that I witnessed last week were just absolutely unbelievable. And nobody else goes there. There's a different
Nope.
gear there. And if he sees the greens well here, and to your point, he has historically putted well here. This golf course is tailor-made for him. No plug intended. So it is definitely of anybody that's starting behind Scheffler, you got to give Rory the best chance.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
I agree.
For sure.
I would. I'm going to bet Rory for sure. I have. And now that takes us to 8 under and a 1-shot lead over Rory. And that would be Victor Hovland, who, all right, we got to hit the fairway, you're saying. Not sure anybody's driving the golf ball better than Vic right now. He's been here 3 times, T15, T5, T20. This is a different version of Vic. And in full transparency, look, when Victor made the change at the beginning of the year, I think I told you this, I thought he had a really good run with Jeff Smith. He got into the top 5 of the world. I think they had 3 wins. Then he went to Joe Mayo. And Joe's obviously a brilliant mind. Joe and Jeff used to work together at TPC Summerlin. It hit me kind of like, why is he searching? Like, what is he searching for? I thought a short game was moving in the right direction. And so I was a little concerned about Vic and like, is he trying to go about this and think about this too much? No disrespect to Joe at all. I just, Vic kind of bounced around a little bit. He's had a lot of coaches. He's worked with Lucas Wald. He's worked with some others. And so it kind of concerned me. And then I just felt like things were kind of status quo. And then all of a sudden, Victor looks like a different player to me, and he looks like he has indeed elevated his game, to the next level. And so I got to give him a lot of credit. I got to give him a lot of credit. We have opinions and sometimes they're wrong. And I think I was wrong about Vic. I think I was wrong about Vic and him, going down this path there was more to be had with what he wanted to do short game wise, using the face differently. When you watch Vic hit short game shots now, it's much more than it's much more than he opened the face up. It's more than that. Like it's the way he kind of leans left, the way he uses the attack angle for spin. Like there's more dynamics to it than just, he's opened the face more and he's using the bounce. Yeah, that's part of it. There's way more than that. He looks much better, around the green. And I think as a function of that, I think Vic knows now that he doesn't have any weakness. He has no weaknesses now.
Oh yeah.
And so as a function of that, with no weaknesses, get out of my way. He's a Terminator, man. Like he's coming down that stretch. I love that. I love that look in his eye. He's intense. And he's a Terminator, man. He's coming at you and he's going to stomp in your face. And I wouldn't be surprised if he kept it going and he won this week. I'm not going to bet Scheffler. I still think the putter's a major issue. And I think it's still a big hitch. I'm going to bet Rory and Vic behind them.
On the stroke side.
Yeah, I'm giving up the strokes. I'm not going to bet Scheffler at plus 150. I mean, come on.
No, I get that. But, to play devil's advocate, why not just bet Victor on the shadow leaderboard? You're going to get a bigger number. You're going to get at least 10-1.
No, I am. I'm going to bet him. Yeah, I am. Yeah. No, I'm going to bet them both. Like we're talking more like we're talking right now with the starting position. But yeah, overall, like who has the lowest score over 72 holes gross, right? Not net, which, net is kind of what we're starting with the numbers. I'm going to go there too. I'm going to go there too with both of them. He's entered another level, right? And I know it's a different week. I get it, this and that, but I think he's hungry. Vic is hungry right now. And I think of maybe all of them, I'll say Vic wants the FedEx Cup more than any of them. More than Scheffler. Well, Scheffler too. Yeah, Vic and Scheffler. But yeah, Scotty and Vic. Rory's got it. Rory's got what? 2, 3?
Three.
He's got
Three of
3.
them.
Yeah. Rom didn't have any. Rom's not going to the Hall of Fame until he gets the FedEx Cup.
Hey, it's the Super Bowl, right? We heard all about it last year.
Hey, hopefully nobody's betting out there and acting out of hand. You know, nobody betting out there now and acting out of.
Yeah, it's historically Atlanta's a city that's completely under control, so we won't have any problems.
Yeah,
We're good.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
All
right.
You know, for me on that board, right? So without the bonus strokes, you
Without
got
the strokes.
You got Victor sitting at 10-1.
Okay.
And you've got Xander at 12-1. You like Victor over Xander?
Head up with no strokes. No, I'll sprinkle a Lumble. I'll sprinkle a Lumble. Xander's too good here, but he's not going to win.
It's tight there, man.
Yeah.
You got two guys on your card.
If I had to pick one, if I had to pick, I'll pick Vic.
Okay.
Yep, I'll pick Vic. Yep. I'm going Vic over Xander. No strokes. You want Xander?
All right. And since
would you want Xander for a bottle of wine?
No.
Okay.
No.
You're going Vic. You're taking Vic with me?
With no strokes. I have other guys further down the board that I feel obligated to mention to your listeners because we keep winning. And there's more money to be had, I think, in my mind. And I think Xander,
let's talk it.
Xander's in a position where he is in that like Colin Morikawa position where he's going to be in your top, 15 guys, top 10 guys here for sure. But he hasn't been closing lately. So Victor is a closer. We've seen it recently, and it's strong. It's tough to get away from Rory. But if you go down into the 20s, and remember, this is a 30-man field. So, but if you go down into the 20s, there's two guys down there that really catch my attention. Russell Henley, Georgia Bulldog, one of the most accurate players, ball striking wise, over the last 24 rounds. Sedgefield, Eastlake is like Sedgefield on steroids. Donald Ross ties. Henley, Georgia Bulldog, Bermuda Grass. He checks all the boxes for me. And then the other guy, a lot of people don't realize this, but Sung J M, he lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that he plays here, but he's used to the weather. He's used to the grasses, and he has good horse history here. And we've got to look for some value because we can't just fill the card with 4 guys under 20-1 and then say, okay, because that just doesn't make sense for everyone that's building a card at home. We got to go a little bit further down the board.
Yep.
So
I like Sung J too. That would be the one I would sprinkle along with. I'll take Harmon. I'll match your Bulldog. Okay. We got to have some fun here. Personal bet. Right. Bottle of wine. I'll take Harmon. You take Henley head to head.
All right.
Okay.
I like Harmon too. Yeah, but yeah,
so
for sure.
So those are some names straight up now, folks. We're not saying with the starting position because you can bet it straight up. And so I'm going to sprinkle some on Harmon. I like Sanjay as well. And Keith is saying that he likes Henley and Sanjay as well. Right?
Definitely. I mean, both, Henley shot 63 on Sunday at Olympia Fields. I think he's got 3 straight top 10s. And this is going through the playoffs. Sung J M, 4 rounds in the 60s at Olympia Fields. What was he? He was 7th there. And, I think that great course history here. And he's sleeping in his own bed. I mean, all those things matter at the end of the day. Yep. And those are the things that give you an edge, folks, in getting through. And you know what I'm most happy about this week? I bet Hovland in Memphis, and I bet him again in Olympia Fields, and he won. Remember we talked all last 2 weeks about getting off the train, right? I said, you know what? God damn it, I'm staying on the Victor train.
Yep.
And man, the 61 was a freight train coming through.
It was. I mean, and it costs. And I'll tell you what, that's my thing going into next year. I'm gonna have a spot where I'm gonna stay on those names. The Lucas Glover for me was my biggest I cost myself a lot of money there because I touted him in the biggest way the week before his run. And I didn't stay with him. I got off him. And what did he do? Won the next two. And so that's I think that's something that people who handicap, it happens a lot. And as I keep going forward in the next year, that's one thing I'm going, I'm doing the research. Okay, it didn't happen that week. Let's stay with it another week. It's good. This could be a good course for him. Let's stay with it another week, and then let's add to that and build upon that. And so, yeah, that's a good point with Victor last week. What a week. I mean, really, because we were all over that, folks. I mean, we had Victor. We talked. You talked about Homa in great length. I talked about Fitzpatrick, which is probably the last name that I would mention here, because what did I say? What did I say Fitzpatrick does? All of a sudden, positive 4 or 5 with the irons, and he wins. He didn't win. He finished second last week. But that's what that dude does. It's the damnest thing. Like, all of a sudden, his irons wake up. And when they do, he didn't win because, the only reason he didn't win because it took us 28 on the back nine to beat him. So there's Fitzpatrick, is I would say is the only other name to potentially consider. I think he worked his driver out last week. I think he was struggling with that a little bit. Usually a nice, pretty straight of the golf ball. I think he has to love the way that he hit his irons last week. We know he can putt. I'll tell you what bothers me, and I'll finish with this. If that dude doesn't take the flag out,
too.
If that dude doesn't take the flag out from 2 feet, like, why? Why would you leave the flag in on a 2-foot putt? It makes no sense. Zero. There's nothing that convinced me inside 3 feet that you leave the flag in. Nothing. It looks weird. Like it could just ricochet off the flag. Like, why? It's not doing anything. Take it out. God, that bothers me.
Hey, you know who started with the flag stick in last week was Colin. So circle the wagons. He's searching for sure.
He's Morikawa.
He's out on the front too. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He had the flag stick in. A la Fitz. I'll tell you a quick funny story about Fitz last week. So he's warming up. He's on the range, and this is Thursday. We have a rain delay, so everything's pushed back 2 hours. And he's out warming up on the range, and he's got training aids going. I'm thinking to myself, man, top 50 in the FedEx Cup points. He made it this far in the season. This guy's still grinding with one of those smart balls between his arms. Then I look to the left of him, Justin Rose. He's got this paddle thing on his hand. Then I look to the right of him, Ben On has got this other thing on his wrist. And I'm saying to myself, there's 6 guys on the range right now, and 4 of them are using training aids. And then the top 50, not in the world, I get it, but they're the top 50 best players of the PGA Tour this year. So, I look at that and I go, man, golf is hard. Golf is hard.
It is hard, but I think it can get monotonous, right? I mean, when you're doing it for a living, those guys doing the same thing over and over again, the discipline it takes, I think it's just natural to want to, let me try that, and that's helping me, let me go online and see if there's something that can help me feel a little more extension in my, look at that, put it on. Yeah, there it is. And they see their buddy over there with, these bands coming out from underneath and pushing it out, and and so I just think that naturally you can get bored, and then you find something that maybe gives you a little different sense of awareness, and you ride with that for a while, and you hit some balls with that. But yeah, it's funny, man. Golf can do some funny things. I go back to Ricky Fowler when he was searching, and when I think he hit the bottom is when he had, he had all those contraptions on him, and he was hitting shots, and it was like, man, just call Butch and just kind of clean the slate and get back to the things that you're capable of doing. So yeah, golf does some funny things. It's a complicated move, even at the highest level. The smallest little things get off, the inconsistencies, of the face and the dispersion and all that makes a huge difference when you add it up. When you're trying to compete with the best players in the world, especially when you're trying to compete and you're down 5 shots before you even tee it up, so
good luck.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck.
All right. Not my favorite week, with the staggered leaderboard start, but it is what it is. In Atlanta, East Lake, tough golf course. Best players are there. Finishing up the PGA Tour regular season. We'll be back for we'll do a little Ryder Cup preview show before we get to the Ryder Cup, and of course those picks are coming up next Tuesday.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
do we have 2 minutes to touch on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. We need 6. Do we believe that we have 4 or 5 locks there? Maybe at least 4. Colin, Koepka.
I think Koepka's got to be. I know there's some that are not because of the politics, but in my mind, if Koepka's not on that team, it's a disgrace. I mean, it really is. You're not trying to win the Ryder Cup with your best team if Koepka's off that list.
He's on there. But at the bottom there, let's assume.
You think so? You think it's that definitive? You think it's that definitive? He's on there. You think Zach's like, yeah, he's already on. He already knows. You think Brett's
7th ranked?
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, there's no way.
No.
So let's just say Spieth, Brooks, Colin, JT are locks. No, Fowler.
You think JT's a lock?
So let's say Fowler. So there's my 4 locks. You've got Fowler, Colin, Brooks, Jordan. 4 locks. You good with that? Who are your last 2?
I think Brooks, Spieth, Colin are locks.
Okay. Who are your last 3 then?
I think those are the 3 last. Or those are the 3. I'm still thinking. I'd like to see. I'd like to see, because we've got this week yet, right? We've got this week.
Sure.
My heart would love to say Sam Burns. It would. My heart would love to say Sam Burns. It's just not there yet. I'm not there yet with Sam Burns. I don't get infatuation with Cameron Young. Like, there's some people like, yeah, Cameron Young's on there. Like, what's Cameron Young done?
Wait a second. Oh yeah, he's not here. So
yeah,
no.
Like what? Yeah, right. And what's Cameron Young done? So I'm like, I don't see that as a lock. I would agree with. Look, I would agree with you on Fowler. I think Fowler's a lock too. I do. I think Fowler's a lock. I think he fits in the locker room. I think all of those things. So I'll go with you on that at this point, saying number 4, Fowler.
All right. Well, I'll close with just saying.
Who's your other 2? You ready to say your other 2?
Yeah, JT and Keegan. JT's in. Okay, so there's 5. And then the last spot between 3 guys, Young, Keegan, and Burns. All right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens this week. Sam Burns could win, and, geez, I'd be sitting here wrong. But, I mean, we were right last week, but we're wrong more often than not. But I tell you,
does Lucas Glover have to have a great week? Does Lucas Glover have to have a great week again to get in?
Oh, in my mind, he has to almost win.
He has to almost win. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not. McCarthy
100%.
has no chance. Danny McCarthy doesn't have a chance. He's kind of stumbled a little bit. He's out. Burns has a fighter's chance. He has to have a great week. He has.
You want to talk about somebody down the list who has a fighter's chance? It would be Henley if he came in like the top 2 this week.
Yeah, that's true.
Of jumping some people. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think the more you look at it, I think the more you look at the board, like on the fringe, looking in on the season, you're like, oh, there's no way JT can be in, right? And when Bryson won, I was like, hey, put Bryson in. And this is a very different version of JT this year. I think you have to come to grips on that. JT has really struggled this year, and Bryson has really emerged. And so what I'm hung up on, and I want another week to consider, is whether or not I put Bryson in there.
Well, in Liv's infinite wisdom,
I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. People are like, my God, did you just say that? People that listen to the podcast.
he's got no shot because they don't play again till the week before Rome.
I know. I don't think he'll make it, but I'm just for my own head, my own picks. Right?
I mean, you'd love to see them have one more event, so at least we can see Brooks again too. But
yep,
they're going to be in Chicago the week before they need to be in Rome. How about that planning?
Yep,
unbelievable.
That's true. Yeah, Brooks is in, Jordan's in, Morikawa's in. I think Ricky's in. And I think Sam and Lucas have to go big. They got to go big this week. All right, I'll give you the fighter's chance with Russell. One of those three, two of those three go big this week. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Zach. If they don't, it feels like Justin Thomas. And I think they'll pick Cameron Young. I think they will. I think they'll pick Cameron Young. I think they'll take JT and Cam Young. That's my gut who I think they'll take. And I think I would take JT and Bryson. Man, it's kind of like you don't feel quite as good about your team right now, do you? Maybe after the President's Cup last year, you're like, my God, these guys, Americans are. And it's just a different looking team, you know. You got Wyndham Clark and Brian Harmon, automatic. This is a different looking team, and I like Brian Harmon on this team, by the way, and I like Wyndham Clark on this. I think that's gonna bode well, right? I mean, you know that this golf course, you're gonna have to keep it in front of you. They're not gonna let you bomb and gouge it. You know that.
You know what? I'll see you next Tuesday at noon. Travis, take us out. Nothing more can be said. Let's let the Tour Championship play out. Have some fun.
All right, Tour Champ, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. All right.